everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about all of this week's news, which is basically about basketball for some bizarre reason. We'll also be talking about all the trailers and announcements for Disney Plus because we're in November. That means Disney Plus is launching this month. This is going to be fun. We're definitely into that kind of final bit before Disney Plus launches. But before we get into that, just do a quick bit of housekeeping. First off, for our Patreon, which you can find us over at patreon.com/What's on Disney Plus. Just want to say a big thank you to all of our Diamond patrons, including Julie, Diane, Andrew, and Russell. And also shout out to Casey from What's on Netflix, who's also become a Patreon this week at the Gold tier. So big thank you for all of your support. You want to support us, it's great. It basically means that we can kind of continue to do the podcast and covers all the costs of running it, such as software and editing software and also hosting it. So there we go. So just a quick plug for that. If you haven't already done so, make sure you do hit that subscribe button on YouTube and on the audio platforms as well, because it's going to get fun in about 2 weeks when we actually get to start talking about TV shows that we've watched and stuff. So I'm going to start slightly twisting the format rather than doing like what we normally watch first. We're going to be leaving that bit to a bit later on in the show from now on because, well, basically we're going to be doing show episode reviews in a couple of weeks' time. So I figured that would make a little bit more sense there. So nevertheless, let's jump into the news. First off, do you like basketball, James?
I don't have anything against basketball. It runs at the same time of hockey, so it kind of overlaps with that, and so we often have news at the same time. But no. Let's go with no, just easily.
The thing is, and I need to put this because this was brought up in the comments a few times because I've made a few videos about NBA, because it's essentially there's a movie, a documentary series, and a TV series all revolved around basketball that's going to be coming up. Now, let's get into that bit first off. Becoming is a documentary series that was originally supposed to be coming to Disney XD a couple of years ago, but it got pushed back. I think that's been going on a lot. This one is being put together by LeBron James's team, and it's going to be focusing on how and talking to people about how they became famous, how they got into their careers. They'll be talking to celebrities, athletes, and the first episode is LeBron James. 10 episodes. Don't know when it's going to be coming onto it, but that one sounds interesting. At least I like that idea because it's a bit more broader than just basketball. We've also got a new movie being created, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce this guy's name because this is they're working on a movie based on the Milwaukee Bucks Greek Freak. I'm not yet. His name's about this long. I can't even try and pronounce it on. Apparently turning that into a movie because he was born in Greece, but he was born to Nigerian parents and didn't have access to like a visa or anything till he was 18, till he could apply to become a Greek citizen. And it's all about his life, basically, I think, growing up in Greece, going through the Greek basketball system before eventually going into the NBA. And he's won loads of awards and is apparently a big player. And then finally, there is a new comedy drama series starring John Stamos, Shirley Aberley, and also Yvette Nicole Brown, who is going to be a new series called Big Shot, created by ABC Studios. 10 episodes again. It's all about he's playing a assistant basketball coach who gets fired and ends up having to work for a private high school teaching basketball, that kind of thing. Apparently, I just saw on Twitter when I got up this morning, which was about half an hour ago, that they did a live read through of the show last night. This one's definitely seems to be something that they're really pushing because I think they want those comedy things. But yeah, 3 kind of basketball things. And like I said, basketball is pretty big in the US. Here in the UK, it's not big at all. And I can't stress that enough, really. It's not on it's barely on our televisions. It's never covered in our sports coverage at the end of the news. It's not a big thing here. So it's the NBA national. That means it's American. So I just want to put that over there. Why I'm not a huge sports fan, but basketball, I know. Is Michael Jordan still playing and Shaq? That's literally my entire knowledge is based on Looney Tunes.
I mean, it's the same thing whenever we talk about wrestling, and I'm like, is Hulk Hogan still in the ring? I
Well, he
don't.
was there at Crown Jewel this weekend, so yes.
Okay, cool. Got one right. I don't follow basketball, but obviously here in the States, it is still a big part of the culture here, and you just hear things at the office, even if you don't follow it. Any of the standard American sports you kind of hear about.
Yeah.
Of course, all the news this past week was on baseball because we had the World Series of America and Canada, but that's not the point.
We play cricket.
I don't even understand cricket. Like, I've had the rules explained to me by two of my Indian coworkers, and I still don't have the slightest clue about that game at all. But it's all cultural, you know. Yeah. Everywhere else in the world love their football and soccer and cricket and whatnot, and we love our basketball and rugby as well. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, World Cup.
Basketball, American football, so on.
And it's just that thing. If Americans like playing games that nobody else in the world plays, so they're number one. That's the system.
I don't see any problem with this, honestly. And the Canadians play them too. We do have the Canadians in many of our leagues.
Yeah.
But in any event, sports, movies, documentaries, whatever. Hey, sports ball. I mean, let's be fair. This isn't just like an American, European, Asian thing. That neither of us are particularly big sports fans in general. I follow hockey. You follow wrestling. Get the rest of it just through osmosis and being around other people who like these things. So, not the best people to talk about this. That said, 3 major basketball shows in different forms. Always good to see John Stamos. I don't think his name is quite the huge draw that he used to be, but he's still a recognizable person. So that will obviously bring a little bit of attention to the project, no matter what the subject matter is.
It's odd because it's not really I don't really recall him being like, because was it Full House?
He was very big on Full House.
Yeah.
I mean, but all of them were him and Dave Coulier and the whole batch of them. But he also continued to do other projects after Full House, so his name is still out there. But like I said, he's not, an A-list celebrity. He's not, top of his game, no pun intended. But he is a known actor. People will recognize the name. And for a show like this, even that little bit is important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, for me personally, the drama series is the fact that it's just he stars as a basketball coach. You're going to have all the story, the love story, and all the teenage angst and all the rest of it. This is the one I'm interested in. I mean, we're going to have to see what the trailer and stuff looks like, but I'm liking the idea that we've got like comedy series. I think it's something that sort of Disney Plus desperately need. The fact that you've got Brad Garrett, who I know like from Everyone Loves Raymond. I think he's also in Single Parents. I think out in ABC. I don't think they've been showing that yet over here. To me, he's like a sitcom kind of person that's been in a number of different things. So having him on board, and he apparently pitched the idea, that is good to me as an executive producer. So that's good. So that series, I can kind of go like, yes, I can get in on. The film, again, Disney have always been good at making these like American sports movies that never get released in the UK till about 5 years after they come out. And this is just, if you were to read me off like things like McCarthy Land USA and I think the Rookie, they just don't even release them here in the cinemas. They just straight to video years later. They don't even bother releasing. So that's why I have no real. I mean, you see these things coming on, but the minute you see a sport that you don't know, you just there's a reason why they don't release them over outside of the US as much. But Disney will like making these, and then they know they're profitable because they're cheap to make, and there's an interest in them. But they do dreadful at the box office now, and they don't do very well internationally, which is obviously a major part of movies now. So this is the natural home. They've talked about it before about sports movies are natural fits for Disney Plus.
Yeah, and it does make sense. I come at it from a slightly different perspective, which is that the sport itself in the show is often not that important. Obviously, it's the initial hook that gets you on. Like, if this was show about the NHL or hockey or the Olympics or something like that, it would probably immediately grab my attention, and I would want to know more about it. and that'll be true for basketball fans as well. But when you get down to it, after you get past that initial hook, it's really about the storytelling. And when you kind of follow sports movies, it doesn't really matter if it's about soccer, baseball, basketball, football, rugby, whatever. The core themes generally transcend whatever sport it is. The underdog taking on the world leader, or maybe the person who didn't have enough advantages growing up is getting their shot at being a star, that kind of thing. That describes any number of sports movies across any number of sports types. So even though this is basketball and I don't really have any affinity for basketball, if it's done well, I could definitely find something to enjoy this. Like rugby. Let's go back to rugby. I don't understand rugby at all. I don't know the rules. I've got like the basic idea of it. I know more of it than I do cricket, but I still loved that movie several years ago with Matt Damon and Morgan Freeman, Invictus. It was a really good movie. I didn't follow the rugby at all, but the core story shone through it. It had nothing to do with rugby. The rugby was just kind of the topping to get it out there in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, like recently, like Wrestling with the Family was one that I really enjoyed. My wife watched it and she doesn't like wrestling, and she was completely hooked in to the story of her becoming a wrestler. And so I think that's the definite thing. Now, I just brought up a list here of, because when I put in like Disney sports movies, there is a lot. So we've got things like Queen of Catway, which I've not seen, McCarthy Land USA, $1 Million Arm, Cloud Nine, Secretat, and then we're kind of going into a little bit more of The Game Plan. I do remember watching that because that had The Rock in, so that was that one was a bigger one. And then The Greatest Game Ever Played, Miracle, Eddie's $1 Million, The Rookie, a lot of this stuff. Remember the Titans, all of these kind of things they've not been big blockbusters over here, and that's just it. And unfortunately, that's just the way. They know that this is how it's going to be. There's a reason why they don't put massive marketing campaigns, because like China's not going to be interested, Europe's not interested, Asia's, that's just the kind of the issue. So Latin America, they all play different games. So it's that kind of thing of why these things, Disney Plus is a natural home for it. I just wish in some ways that they'd spread these out a little bit more. I mean, only really the one that was only really official was the Big Shot. The other two ones have kind of come through reports and stuff, but this week it kind of feels like, with a big push towards Disney Plus coming out in just under we're like 10 days away now. It just feels a bit odd that this was the push that came through on the new content, when we're going to get into the other stuff in a minute.
Yeah, but at the same time, they've got to make sure that they are covering as many bases as possible. Wrong sport.
Isn't that the wrong sport?
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
They need to get it as many baskets as possible.
They need to get as many three throws, not free. Yeah. As possible. Get the points up there. So yeah, we've got a lot of trailers coming out this week. As you said, we'll talk about those in a moment. But they also have to be making sure that they are covering other issues that they will be dealing with. These three shows, and I don't know if they intentionally did all the basketball stuff at once, or if that's just kind of lined up. It is Disney. I do have to assume that they've got a plan in regards to the marketing, so it's probably not a coincidence that these all came out at the same time. But yeah,
we're definitely in now we hit November. We're into that last 2 weeks. We've only literally got one more episode after this before Disney Plus launches, and then we can really get into the meat of things. So this past week, there's been a number of new trailers have been dropped. So we've seen, and I say trailers, a lot of them were quite short, things like Encore, the Word According to Jeff Goldblum. There's been like medleys from High School Musical. That one's been kind of getting out there to get the music out there a little bit. We've seen, we saw the first trailer for Forky Asks a Question. We saw new trailers for the Pixar Spark shorts, which confirm that Float will be one of the new ones coming on launch day. On launch day, along with the three that have already been previously released. They're then going to be like every 2 weeks after that on the Fridays. So that was good. We then had like a announcement then of like all the Pixar movies and shorts coming to, which kind of in some way was quite cool, because they were like, we're going to make all these big Pixar announcements, and there was like 3 or 4 in a run then of those trailers. We had an Avatar trailer that kind of came out of nowhere, confirming that Avatar was going to be part of the launch lineup. Which on one hand, like, got a load of people excited because, like, yay, Fox got something in there. And then there's a load of people going, "That's like a 10-year-old movie. Why are they promoting this over everything else?" I'm like, well, up to recently, it was the biggest movie of all time until the Endgame. It's still and they've got massive plans for this franchise. There's a reason why, and it's the 10th anniversary coming up, and it was quite a big thing. They really made a big deal of that movie being part of it.
Yeah, and I kind of don't agree with either side on that one. It's like, it's a 10-year-old movie. Why shouldn't it? It's like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is a little older than 10 years, and that's on there too. The age doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I'm also on, like, yeah, okay, it was the #1 biggest movie of all time, but its cultural impact is like zero.
Yeah.
Other than existing in Animal Kingdom with 2 rides, one of which is fantastic.
Yes.
There's almost no impact at all. And if that hadn't existed, if they had created those 2 rides and not attached Avatar to them, made up something else, made them the Lion King ride, I don't know, no one would care in the slight. No one, slight exaggeration. There are obviously still people who love Avatar, but in terms of, like, its impact, it's not Star Wars, it's not Star Trek, it's not any of these other movies, shows that we still talk about 30 and 40 years ago. We only talk about Avatar as like, yep, it was the record holder until Avengers.
I still think it's all about prepping us. They are making enough noise about Avatar since picking it up, because they're looking at, they've got four sequels coming. And they're like every other Christmas between the Star Wars movies. They are prepping us to the idea that Avatar is going to be, they're filming them at the minute. They are prepping us to get us ready to the fact that this brand is back, and Disney are really going to make the most of it.
Back might be stretching it a little bit. I don't think it ever really existed in the first place. That said, yes, the obvious reason for all of this is that they've got 4 movies in the pipeline. They're going to probably expand the Animal Kingdom park at some point with a couple new things. Obviously, they've got to get Galaxy's Edge kind of straightened out first, but yeah, they have plans for Avatar. They want people to remember Avatar, so of course they're going to make a big deal out of it. But it's not a movie that at current, it's not a movie that really is a big deal. Other than having the record, other than having 4 sequels and who knows, those 4 sequels or even the first sequel may make me do a full turnaround and be like, all right, maybe the first movie was just kind of a thing, but wow, they took the franchise and it's amazing now. I don't know. We'll find out.
It's just very strange of how they didn't make that much bigger of a deal about the other 450 movies that they announced for Disney Plus, and just Avatar they really picked out, which says to me something about the overall plan for it. But yeah, a couple of other things as well. We saw a new trailer for Pixar in Real Life, which kind of got to see the first bits and pieces of that, which I thought was, that looks an interesting little short. We don't really know how long the episodes are, but it was a nice little Pixar moment as well to add on to it. Forky asked the question, just looks more Forky. You can't go wrong with that. That's exactly what it is, and that's exactly what they delivered. So I'm excited to see what they are. Yeah,
I mean, Forky doesn't really grab me all that much. I think it's aimed at a much younger audience, which is fine. The questions they were highlighting that he would be asking definitely kind of came from the a 9-year-old trying to ask deep questions kind of thing. But it sounds like they're just going to go off and do whatever they want with it, which cool. I'll give it a shot, especially if it's not very long. Pixar in Real Life, the ads obviously focused on bringing the Pixar characters into real life, like having Wally go across the street and having Russell running around New York or wherever they're at. I'm actually more interested in seeing how they did some of these things. So I hope that they focus on that in the series. Like Russell's obvious. That's just a kid that they trained to act like Russell from the movie. And there's not too much special. The
bit with Dash.
The Dash was good. I like that one.
Because I thought that was so smart, because you could see that thing, obviously having a twin just running right the minute he got out of shot. And of course, everyone was
right. I thought that was clever. I enjoyed that little bit. But you don't need much explanation for
Yeah.
it. There's not much technical. It's one kid's hiding behind the building and the other kid runs around the side.
Yeah.
No, but I'd like to see what they had to do to make Wally work, or some of these other characters that aren't quite as obvious as Dash or Russell. But we'll see what they have. I'm going to check this series out. It looks entertaining. It's kind of got that late night talk show prank style, harmless prank style, but that's kind of the feel I get from it, and that's fine. It's throwaway fun stuff.
Yeah, it does, and I think as well as that, it's the Pixar lineup is very light for the launch, so therefore, kind of, having Forky and this Pixar in real life gives that area a little bit, because otherwise they were going to have like 0 like originals on there at launch. Got a new trailer for The Mandalorian, which I think was I think it was a better trailer. I think it was a little bit more, giving us a little bit more juice, not
substance.
A lot. Yeah, there's we've got a little bit more teaser of that one. It doesn't look. Apparently, there is going to be some big Star Wars revelation in the first episode, which is a big spoiler, but therefore no one's going to see it until it comes out, until the first day, which I think makes sense. I mean, I do wonder if they're like, yeah, we're just going to let this one get out there on day one and let everyone all experience it on the same time. But yeah, can't wait for The Mandalorian. Is number one kind of watch straight away. The minute you're firing up, that's what I'm going to be watching.
Oh, absolutely. That is the number one thing I'm interested in. I'm a little sad that there won't be preview copies going out, but I do understand they don't need early reviews on The Mandalorian. It'd be nice, but it's what most people are going to be watching up front. If not Mandalorian, then probably High School, the musical, the series, because two vastly different spectrums of fandom. But I suspect that those are their two big flagship items. I didn't actually mean to lead into High School the Musical, but do we want to talk about the medley trailer there?
Yeah, it seemed alright. I mean, I've seen the first movie, so I'm aware of like the songs, and obviously during that period you couldn't get away from them, so I'm aware of them, but I'm not completely locked in on who sings them and stuff. So I think watched the medley. It was like some of it was a bit like, oof, that's a bit rough, and then some of them were like nice. I'm just like, I'm kind of going into this one a little bit more open-minded. It's in my middle of my road, because like me and the mods of our Disney Plus group, we're talking about this, like which ones are we more excited about, and it was like thing of like for me it's like Mandalorian, and then you got Imagineering, and then the Jeff Goldblum show. Those are like and then like the Pixar short. So like it's very much middle of that. Encore and High School Musical are much lower down on my list of things to watch, and yeah, I'm gonna watch it. The fact that it's I'm glad that it's dropping in little episodes. I think if I got dropped with 10 episodes at once, I don't know how it would really take a little bit longer for me to get into it, I think.
Yeah, and actually one of the main reasons I will actually check out High School the Musical is because that they are releasing that one early on the Disney Channel or Freeform or wherever.
Friday.
So I will probably load it up on the DVR. I'll watch it just like most other people will, but I have even less experience with High School the Musical than you do. I have not seen any of the movies. I've not seen any of the side projects. So I know nothing about it other than the premise, which it's pretty straightforward. I have seen Glee, which is a slightly marginally older version than High School. It might be the same. So I know what to expect from like the basic idea, but I don't have the nostalgia and whatnot that they seem to be hammering quite a bit in the trailer. And I was just like, yeah, okay.
But I think it's a generation thing, because I think it's about getting the 20-somethings involved in this one, and it's a good plan. I'm like I said, I'm going into it quite neutral. I'm not going into it negative. I'm liking the idea that they're kind of trying to do something different. The fact that there's a bit meta of him sat there looking at the High School Musical DVD, shows to me. And if they don't have one of the stars in the last episode in the theater watching them perform it, and then comes up to them and hugs them or gives them that's gonna happen, isn't it?
I don't see how that couldn't happen, honestly.
Yeah, it's like they've got to get one of them in there for a slight cameo, whoever's not doing the most work right now.
I have to assume...
Can't imagine it's Zach.
I don't even know who any of these characters are. I'm sure I know some of the actors
Or
from other
Zac
stuff.
Efron, I was meaning.
Oh, Zac Efron. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm aware of who he is. No, I figure that you and I, and probably at least 50% of the people listening to us right now, can plot out this entire series from episode 1 to the final episode and get 90% of it right. That's not why you watch the series. So, yeah, we're not expecting huge twists and turns. We can probably figure out most of the stuff. And even if something comes up, like there's going to be a problem in the first episode, and we're just going to be like, well, they're going to resolve it by doing this, this, and this. And maybe there will be a twist where this character will do that. And but whatever. Sometimes you don't need to worry about the show surprising you. Sometimes you're just going in to enjoy the execution of the show. And I suspect this is one of those.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that one. Encore as well. We're going to need teaser trailer for that one. Just seeing more of the kind of the same, very upbeat. It was funny because Casey from What's on Netflix kind of tweeted at me going, like, us as British. It was so funny when because it was that thing of as British people, we're like, oh, this is very, very American. It's like it's very optimistic. It shows that we don't get like over here. So it's very much, and I'm glad it wasn't just me feeling like it's like really over the top, super, super lovely. But yeah, it's television that we don't get on our mainstream here. They don't push that kind of style. It doesn't work over because we're a lot more cynical and judgmental. Like you know, as Brits, we're not quite as fluffy.
I mean, you just don't know how to have fun, honestly. Yes. I mean, whatever. If Europeans want or Asians want to look at this and go, "Oh, this is very much an American project," who the heck cares? There is a very specific audience for this. This and what was the other one? The Marvel Superhero Project.
Yeah, Marvel Hero Project.
The Hero Project, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago. You know what? It's not for me. It's not for you. But there is a very definitive market for this. There are people who love this kind of feel-good, happy, sappy, saccharine kind of show. And that's perfectly fine. Disney knows the audience for it. If anything, we have to be thankful to Disney for not trying to disguise what the show is. They're just coming out straight out and going, if you like Hallmark movies, if you like those feel good, house hunter stories, that the happy ones, not the ones where it ends up being like a $4 billion house or whatever. But they're not trying to get you or me to watch this. They're saying, if you like these other kinds of shows, you will like Encore, you will like the Marvel Hero Project, and that's fine. They know their audience, and the audience knows they're going to like this, and the rest of us can move on.
Yeah, like my mother-in-law, she will literally watch the Hallmark Christmas movies back to back for the next 6
Well, then these are for her.
Exactly. So that's good. A couple of other bits and pieces. Can't remember if we this was Jim Henson's Earth to Ned, a new chat show. Coming to Disney Plus from Jim Henson, who this one's a puppet series where he's going to be interviewing celebrities, and he's supposed to be coming in to take over, but becomes completely obsessed with Earth culture and celebrities and wants to have his own. He's doing some kind of chat show from his spaceship that's locked underground, hidden away, and this is just absolutely bonkers, but I love it. I love the idea of them doing this.
I only just heard about this one on the most recent post, which was still like a week old at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, this looks very entertaining. I can't wait to see more about this. The only thing I'm disappointed about is that it's not the Muppets. I mean, it's Jim Henson. It should be the Muppets, but I think they wanted to make sure that there was no preconceptions going into it, that they didn't want us to think it was going to be the Muppet Show 2.0 from the 70s and 80s, and I'm fine with that. We'll have to wait and see what it looks like, but if it follows that same kind of tongue-in-cheek style with a more late night show rather than skit based, I think it could be very entertaining. I like the basic idea of it. It's just fun.
And as well, I think if they keep it to like maybe half an hour episode, so like that,
Right.
keep it quite short and sweet. It's kind of quite funny as well because HBO Max is doing something kind of similar with Elmo. So that might be
Yeah,
why maybe the Muppets. Yeah, that was when I saw that one. We're going to talk about HBO in a little bit later on, but yeah, that was for maybe this is the new thing of Muppets and puppets doing interviews.
the newest thing from the 70s and 80s, you mean?
Yeah, this is it. Because I mean, if you saw the video I put up, I put some clips of Zig and Zag that we had over here, and then he had Alf as well. And it was quite a common thing that used to happen. And to be honest, it's cheap TV. It's much cheaper to make than CGI graphics and stuff.
And then very recently, Netflix had the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, which was using the traditional Muppet, puppet style that the original movie had as well. It's not even just nostalgia. I think even younger audiences are kind of just willing to accept, all right, they're puppets. It looks absurd when you try to do it in like a realistic fashion, but whatever, we're just going to roll with it and we're just going to have fun. And as long as people are willing to do that with this or the HBO projects or the Netflix projects, keep bringing them on as long as the quality is good.
There's also some other rumors of other shows being developed. So apparently Ice Age and Rio are two of the things that are currently floating around as being spun off. The Rio show will focus on the two side characters, Pedro and I can't remember the other guy's name. And then from Ice Age will be focused on Buck the Weasel. There's also apparently reports of Disney Plus versions of Fantasia, Jiminy the Cricket, Cheshire Cat, and Seven Dwarfs. We don't really know much about all these, whether or not they're going to be series, shorts, or animations, or anything like that. But yeah, they're definitely jumping into those ideas of doing those kind of shows, which I thought was quite interesting.
I'm actually very interested in seeing what they do with Fantasia, because I mean, if you go back to the original idea of Fantasia, it was supposed to be a rotating group of musical pieces that they would change out. They would add new ones. They would have classic ones. They kind of revisited in 2000 with Fantasia 2000, which I actually think was better than the original, but many people disagree with me on that, and that's fine.
I don't think I've seen that one, actually.
It's got flying whales for one thing, and it's got.
Well, Linkin Park did it. It was fine.
Yeah, and it had Donald Duck playing Noah from Noah's Ark, which was actually a really good piece. It was introduced by Penn and Teller, of all people. But in any event, Disney Plus is kind of the perfect place for Fantasia to go back to that original idea of we're going to take some classic music. Or just music in general. We're going to animate it, and we're going to do freeform animation. It might not be, it might be abstract. It might be really weird, like flying whales and ballerina hippos, and it might be something more storytelling based, like The Magician's Apprentice.
But also, it will work more as a series, because if you take like 6 or 8 shorts and put them together, that would have been the movie, but releasing them maybe like one a week or one every 2 weeks will help spread that out. And I think there's some it kind of naturally fits that shorts version rather than maybe doing a full movie.
Oh, I agree 100%, because when you see Fantasia with that specific set of songs in that specific order, and there's no rotation through it. But if you've got individual one-offs, you can pick the ones that you want. You can make a playlist. You can rotate them around, maybe even randomize them, do whatever you want. Like say you didn't like The Magician's Apprentice or The Sorcerer's Apprentice, sorry. You can skip that one. You can leave it off the rotation, and you can instead have Rhapsody or, The Nutcracker Tale or whatever you want to listen to instead.
I just don't know. Bohemian Rhapsody would be rather cool.
Yeah, but they do stay away from vocals, I think. It's primarily
instrumental.
Instrumental.
But Disney do own the rights to Queen music, so
they do. And Bohemian Rhapsody, you could have a lot of fun with that, because it's kind of a trippy song to begin with. So you could really kind of go.
I just wanted to see that with the Muppets. There we.
I think we have seen that with the Muppets. Actually.
I'm sure that we must have done. It just got into my mind, but yeah, that one definitely sounds cool. I think as well, doing some of those Fox projects as well, that will be interesting to see them go forward with them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
A couple of other like movie bits and pieces. Ant-Man 3 looks like that's going ahead. The directors signed on to do a third one. We've also know now that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2 is coming in April 2022. Now, necessarily, it's a Sony movie, but it's important to note, and why I mentioned it a little bit there, was the deals that Sony have with Netflix with the Sony Animation expire in 2021. The deal that Sony have with Stars expires in 2021. Therefore, if this movie is coming out in 2022, it could have hit 2022, 2023 by the time it hits streaming. There's a very high chance that Sony and Disney do a deal by that point for some little movies that involve some arachnid. While technically it's not a Disney movie, and it was announced on Marvel.com. It wouldn't surprise me when they get to that point whether or not some new deals are done for those particular movies.
Honestly, even if it doesn't end up on Disney Plus right away, or it takes a couple of years, it's still good for both Marvel and Disney and Sony. The first one, the original one, was really a surprise at how good it was. And it ended up being one of the star movies. And I think everyone's got very high hopes for the sequel, and just keeping Spider-Man up there, name recognition, all that. Yeah.
It's also the fact, like I said, the fact that Marvel.com had a post up announcing it was on within seconds of the tweeter going out. That says to me that they are working together much more closely, because that never used to happen years ago, and especially like with the Fox stuff, because they've only got to work with Sony now on one thing. They are a little bit closer. So I definitely think that one is a good thing from the Spider-Man point of view.
Oh yeah, there are probably a lot of unannounced things that came from the recent deal. Hopefully, they're strengthening that deal.
They were working on TV series. I mean, it's just a natural fit, isn't it?
Anyway, so good news all around.
Good news for that one. Apparently, there's a live-action Pinocchio movie underway with Robert Zemeckis, who did movies such as Back to the Future, Polar Express, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. There is apparently there's still a little bit of consideration of whether or not it becomes a Disney Plus movie or a movie. I think they're pushing more towards the movie side of things now, but they are very much aware that live action is a little bit limited. Alan Horn, who is one of the co-chiefs over at Disney, was on an interview system with the Holiday Reporter, and he talked about there being a limited potential for these remakes. They know that there's this kind of bubbles. There's only so many that they've got in the can, and so many times they can do it. But this one is kind of like, I think, again, they're taking each movie as it goes and going, okay, this might be good enough. Basically, they're looking at it going, is this going to bring in billions at the box office or not? If it's not, then they push it to Disney Plus.
Right. And so I've got two different conflicting views on this one. Personal thoughts. First, since it is Pinocchio, it's probably going to require a decent amount of CGI or computer effects for pretty much any scene with the puppet, unless they can figure out a good practical way to have him without strings throughout the entire movie, which would suggest a movie theater release. On the other hand, the numbers tend to back up that anything older than, let's say, The Little Mermaid doesn't do really all that well in theaters as a live action release. I mean, Jungle Book did fine. Dumbo did okay in the end. Even Cinderella and those, they did fine, but they did not do numbers like Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, and Aladdin did.
Yeah, there's that kind of generational thing, isn't it? Of the Renaissance movies seem to have they're at a different place.
Which makes sense, because the people like you and I who grew up with those movies, specifically the Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, Mulan, Pocahontas, etc., are now at the age where we would be taking our children to the movies, and if I had kids, I would be much more inclined to take them to see the movies that I have a specific amount of nostalgia for, which would be that generation movies. Sure, I loved seeing the classics whenever I visited my grandma, or whenever we would rent them from the store. But really, I grew up with Aladdin and Lion King and Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid, and those are the ones that I'm most directly attached to.
Yeah, they think that. I mean, I think they know that they're pushing the boundaries a little bit more on what they're doing. So this one's good. They're also apparently doing a new musical version of The Christmas Carol. So
Called Marley, right?
yeah, Marley. So again, yeah, it could be. I think it's live action. It's just this a musical. Can't imagine them doing another animated one. They only did one like 10, 15 years ago with Jim Carrey, which was good. I do love the story of Christmas Carol. Whether or not we need another version of it, I do question. But you know what isn't
I
broke, don't fix, I guess.
I do agree that there are very, very many good versions of the Christmas Carol out there. You got Scrooge, you've got the Muppets, you've got the Jim Carrey, you've got some older ones. I mean, going back basically to the beginning of cinema, it's one of the ones that's been around since cinema started. Uh, the fact that they're going the Marley angle, which of course was was Scrooge's original business partner, the person who shows up as the first ghost to warn him that the other ghosts are coming, could mean there's a different spin on this. It could be not necessarily the Christmas Carol, but more like a prequel, maybe.
Yeah.
Either that or a Forrest Gump kind of deal where Marley's like in the background laughing at Scrooge and all these horrible things happening to him and the other ghosts. But yeah, at the very least, they seem to be going a different approach with it, which, okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that one.
Yeah, so that's all. And also, apparently the writers from the Game of Thrones have pulled out of doing the Star Wars trilogy. Apparently this one is due to the fact of, they signed a massive deal with Netflix and didn't feel they could give Star Wars the attention it needed. Yeah, it's kind of going to... And apparently they don't take too well to the fan reaction to Game of Thrones, to the fact of how they would be ripped to shreds by the Star Wars community, by the sounds of it. I've only watched the first season of Game of Thrones and got rather bored of it and didn't bother carrying on anymore. So I've got to me, they're just like, yeah, whatever. I know that kind of Game of Thrones kind of went out on a bit of a whimper rather than the way it was supposed to. To me, it's along the lines of Disney know what they're doing. If these guys aren't involved, get rid of them now. Get people in that want to do it. And I committed to it. You know, Star Wars is too big a deal to... You know, if they're too... The thing is, as well, with all this money being thrown around with the streaming wars, you know, if they've got this massive 5-year deal with Netflix, they can't do the two together. You can't do 3 Star Wars movies and not pay attention to it. You know, at least we know, like, James Cameron, he's down there in New Zealand sorting out Avatar right now, and that's what he's doing. He ain't messing about with anything else. And, yeah, Star Wars needs someone's attention. And maybe, I think this is why Kevin... Feige was brought in to do the next, whatever the next Marvel or next Star Wars movie is, maybe as a kind of a stopgap till they work out who the next thing is.
Yeah, no, I did watch all of Game of Thrones. I did enjoy up through season 5. Well, I enjoyed all of it.
Yeah.
Including the final season. But I think I enjoyed the final couple of seasons more just on the momentum of the earlier seasons and just kind of seeing where some of the stories ended up playing out. That said, the last 2 seasons were insultingly bad, like really bad. And a lot of that is actually attributed to the writers starting to turn their focus to Star Wars, where they were kind of just cashing in a paycheck on Game of Thrones and working on a different project. And honestly, considering how much work is required for the Star Wars trilogy movies, I would totally see the exact same thing happening. They get like strong first movie, and then by they're finishing editing on the second movie. They're just like, I'm kind of done with this. I want to work on my Netflix series and just completely abandoning it. It's also worth noting at least one of them was the writer on the recent movie Gemini Man.
Yeah.
The Will Smith movie. I still kind of want to see it for the action, but the story is apparently atrocious. Just like almost... It's sitting at what, 20 or 30% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, and everybody is just like, no, the story is a train wreck. And also an interview, or I think it was a panel at a con recently came out with these two guys, and just the way they were answering questions, just like, how did you guys ever get this job in the first place? You showed disrespect to the source material from the very beginning. What the heck is going on here? So... You know what?
The reaction that people, the comments and stuff I was getting to this, and it's that kind of thing. Sometimes, like I said, like I'm like, oh, they ruined Game of Thrones because they went off to do this other project, and now they're not even doing it. They rushed Game of Thrones for Star Wars, and then didn't even do that. And yeah, just generally the reaction seemed to be a real kind of like, like nobody really see. It's like, well, okay, there's no one really kind of sitting here going, "Oh my God, it's Star Wars is over." It's like, yeah, no, they kind of moved along quite nicely. And I mean, I was at my games club the other night when we were playing Star Wars miniature games. Obviously the talk was about Star Wars quite a lot, and it's Star Wars night. But I mean, everyone was just like, yeah, they really kind of, there wasn't much love for them doing it in the first place, by the sound.
No, I shed exactly 0 tears over them leaving. Everybody I've talked to who's also a Star Wars fan was like, oh, thank goodness this is the nightmare is not going to come to be. And to be fair, you know what? Those guys got a huge payday from Game of Thrones, probably also from Gemini Man and any number of other movies that they've done.
The Netflix
I don't think they're really hurting over this either. So
no, I mean,
let's just put a
pin in them.
Let's underline the whole thing. We'll forget that they were ever attached, and we can hate on whoever the next director is because nobody hates Star Wars like Star Wars fans.
I think we need Gary Whitta because he did a great job with Rogue One and he did the comic books and stuff. I think, get him back in. But nevertheless, I'd
be fine with that, honestly.
Now let's talk a little bit about competition, because obviously Disney Plus is the big one that everyone's watching, but there was also a really big, massive streaming network with so much content released this week on Apple. Yesterday, Apple TV launched.
This is actually news to me. I'm not even joking. I'm like, wait, what? It did?
Yeah, Apple TV.
Okay,
Apple TV Plus launched yesterday with the first episodes of their new shows, including The Morning Show, C. There's also Dickinson. There's a shorts featuring Snoopy and a couple of other bits and pieces. Oh, yeah, this is a streaming service which is going to be an odd one. The fact that anyone that's brought an iPhone or an iPad or a Mac since September have got access to it for free. They were literally giving away an Apple TV box for half price, so you get a whole year's worth of Apple TV with it for free. Yes, they were giving away from half price yesterday, limited deal kind of thing. This really, I mean, I was trying to watch, response it. All the reviews were coming in of people going, they're all a bit meh. They weren't anything amazing. A lot of people saying how they had to sign up with their iTunes account and they couldn't remember their iTunes account to get in and couldn't get in going. It's only on Apple at the minute. They've not managed to get it out onto they do say they want to get them out onto like other devices like Roku's and Amazon's, etc., to make sure Apple TV is available. But they hadn't done that for launch. It's still very much in the Apple ecosystem. And it just seemed, I mean, I saw all the adverts and stuff, but it just doesn't seem like this has quite gone. Again, they've got no franchises other than Snoopy. They're launching their own like film and TV studios, but they've not got that bite to it. And everyone kind of has been waiting for Disney Plus, and the $4.99 is a great price, but a lot of people, the reviews and stuff of it, because I was looking at it, was going, it's just not worth it for the amount of shows and then these shows aren't good enough. They're not good enough to launch it. The stuff with Jennifer Anderson and everyone saying, you can do a 3 weeks trial, which I might do when they actually have got a few episodes, but I'm really just like, well, if it's a weekly drop or a monthly drop or whatever it is, I'm going to wait till next year till I get my new iPhone and just have a year's worth of access then, and I might check it out. But the reaction online, within my between all the, because I'm in a few different communities online of cord cutting and Disney and all the rest of it, and it just seemed to be very little excitement about this at all. I mean, there was a lot more excitement about HBO Max and Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, I wasn't joking earlier. I actually didn't even realize it had launched. So I'm looking at the lineup now. There's a couple here that have potential that I could see myself watching, but I'm like, nothing super amazing. Now I do know that the Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks series about the Mighty Eighth, which is the bomber group over World War II, or over Berlin in World War II, will be coming to it eventually. And I will probably subscribe at that point because Band of Brothers and the Pacific were fantastic. But the rest of this, I'm going to treat this the same way as I will with the CBS, which is hosting the Star Trek stuff. I'm not a huge Star Trek nerd, but I enjoy it well enough. I'll be like, I'm going to wait for the Picard series to come out and be done, and then I will subscribe for a month. I will binge all the stuff I want to watch, and then I will cancel, and I can see doing the exact same thing with Apple TV.
Yeah.
That said, I'm kind of curious if my work phone will be eligible, because my work phone broke and I will be getting a new one in the next couple of weeks, and it will be an iPhone. I wonder if that'll work for this or not. But since it's through work, I don't know if I'll be able to.
Do you log in with your iCloud? Would you log in with your own iCloud details?
I don't even remember.
No,
honestly, well, I set that phone up like 4 years ago.
You should be able to get, and even if you don't get access, you should be able to set up something with that one, even if it's a new account. I don't know, but because I think you probably have to register. I don't know, but again, I might jump in and watch the things, but only being able to watch it on Apple TV. It's like it's not on Xbox, it's not on PlayStation. I haven't got I can plug my iPhone into it. That's how I'm watching Disney Plus at the minute, but it's not ideal. And with one episode of, there's these free trials to try it out, but a lot of people are like going, well, I don't want to use it. It's like I might as well leave the free trial till you can binge it a bit. I gotta be honest, the talk show host thing, I've got zero interest in it because that looks so dull and boring. Bad enough watching breakfast TV anyway, let alone watching a television series on it with Jennifer Anderson playing Jennifer Anderson. I just ever since she was great in Friends, but then I realized then that that's all she can play is a version of herself.
I didn't even know who you were talking about. I've been hearing this as Jennifer Anderson, like Anderson from The Matrix. I'm like, wait, no, it's Aniston.
Yeah.
And so I was very confused about who you were talking about. Now I've got it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It just does not get me. The sea one with Aquaman in it. Apparently, that's very generic, kind of futuristic, apocalyptic TV show. Nothing there really groundbreaking. There's one with Dickinson where the girl that's going to be playing Hawkeye's Bishop, but it's like set in the past, but she's like a strong female character, and it's that kind of thing of I saw this with, there was a TV show on Sky that did the same thing of where they were trying to apply today's like values and what everything happens to a time when that didn't work, and therefore it's like how powerful and and it's like, well, yeah, but it wouldn't have been like that back then. They couldn't have got away with what taking a woman from today and putting her 300 years ago or 200 years ago and trying to apply the same rules. That doesn't work. But that one apparently is a bit hit and miss as well. But
let's not worry too much about inserting modern women into old stories when we were previously talking about movies like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Pocahontas.
Yeah, but they weren't as bad as, I think it's just this kind of thing of doing a live action series where you're trying if you're trying to do it, if that's the main arc of what the story is about, the only way to me that would be more interesting is if you took her from now and she's a time traveler and she goes a bit like Outlander, where they took her back, she went back in time and then was struggling with the idea of how women were treated back then. That kind of makes a lot more sense. But I don't know, it's just going to be interesting where they go with this one. I think Apple TV has a real sort of uphill battle to convince people to subscribe and pay for it with so little offering. And there's so many streaming services. Everyone is going to start looking and going, right, what am I watching? I'm sure this is going to be a wait, binge, drop, or I'll wait till I get my, once I've got my device, I'll watch it. But then they're going to be touting a lot of people subscribing and watching it, but how many people are paying for it is the key thing that people are going to have to watch out for.
Again, though, we've got to look at the situation where, okay, they're giving away a lot of Apple TV subscriptions with Apple products. It's not incredibly different to Disney throwing out discounts to every single membership program that they have, DVC, Movie Club, D23, etc. Granted, it's not free for those, but they were giving some pretty heavy discounts on them.
Yeah. The only argument that would be like is if you literally were if you went to it as an annual pass holder, every annual pass holder got them. Mm-hmm. If you go see a movie at the cinema, you get a free year. Apple are giving away that to anyone that buys a product.
Granted,
like that's quite it's in their own ecosystem. That's quite a big bonus.
So maybe a better comparison would be to say, We know that they're going to bring Disney Plus to a lot of the Disney hotels
Yeah.
in Walt Disney World and Disneyland, presumably overseas as
Yeah.
well once they come into those countries. Those numbers, will every single hotel room in all of the hotels that have it count as individual subscribers? Because it probably will.
Yeah.
All the companies pad their numbers.
Yeah.
There is a certain reek of desperation with the buy any Apple product and you get the Apple subscription. On the other hand, you are paying a lot for an Apple product. It doesn't cost them much to be like, well, okay, it's $5 or $6 a month times 12. The cost of the product easily covers their annual subscription.
I think the thing is for Apple TV is it's kind of one of those things of it's either going to work or they will abandon it in a few years' time if they're just throwing money at it and it's not working.
We're not talking about Google here. We're talking about Apple.
Yeah, they might stick it a little bit longer.
I will grant you. We have seen plenty of Apple launches go very, very poorly.
Yeah.
Thinking about like say Apple Maps when they tried to get rid of when they did get rid of Google Maps and build their own map. It launched in a terrible state. But nowadays it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It's you can debate Waze, Google Maps, Apple Maps, whatever. What's your favorite? But they're all in kind of the same level of competition. And yes, I am aware Google owns Waze. That's not the point. Even if Apple TV is currently not in the best position, it's not launching in a strong position, they do stick with their products. And I could see in even a year, once they've built up the lineup, they've kind of seen what works, what doesn't work, maybe get a couple more AAA talent things going on here. It could very well be a very strong contender alongside Netflix, Hulu, and all these other things.
Yeah. It's just, I think the problem is, it's like, and let's talk about HBO Max. They had a big presentation this week. They announced their new streaming service is coming in May 2020. It's going to be priced at $14.99 a month, but it's going to be free for anyone that's an AT&T customer who is subscribed to the HBO channel. It's going to contain 100,000 hours of TV shows. It's going to be including stuff from their content line, including Warner Brothers, New Line, DC, CNN, TNT, TBS, True TV, Turner Classic Movies, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, Crunchyroll, Rooster Teeth, Looney Tunes, and much more. It's going to have about 1,800 movies at launch. 30 original series, 5 to 10 original movies a year. You're going to have a Game of Thrones show. They've managed to pick up the streaming rights to South Park. They're going to be doing live action stuff. They're going to be bringing live TV. It's very much as along the lines of they're going in heavy. There's still a lot of confusion of how they're using all the branding and stuff because it's still very much tied to their old AT&T system. But they came out swinging, and if you saw the reaction online between HBO and Apple was night and day. People were going, oh, there's a lot of stuff on here because they've got the franchises. They're in the same boat with Disney. I don't think they're as well, but they have got some massive franchises, some massive characters, some massive movies. They've got hundreds, they've got 100+ years of movie history. They are an established hitter. And I think, HBO Max really grabbed a lot of people. The price point put a lot of people off because it's so expensive. And it's kind of weird because I'm kind of going, yeah, but if Disney Plus had launched with Hulu in combined, it would have been around this price. So yeah, Disney and Apple TV have come in really, really low. So this looks really expensive. But I've got to admit, this is one heck of a library.
Oh, the HBO library is amazing. Even if you take all of the third-party or not HBO-branded stuff out of it, just the HBO originals and maybe stuff owned by their direct owner, the library is amazing. Ever since The Sopranos first started coming out, HBO has just been synonymous with quality, mature content. Sopranos, Westworld, Deadwood, Carnival, and then more recently, Game of Thrones and stuff like that. Well, Westworld would also be more recent, but
the new Watchmen series, HBO,
which I have to admit really surprised me. I was expecting that show to be a dumpster fire, and even after just 2 episodes, I'm like, wow, I really want to see where they're going with this.
I was trying to convince my wife to watch it the other day. But it's that kind of thing of, I think HBO really, the Warner Brothers, I think they need to reshuffle. They're trying to throw out too many brands of like, we've got all this stuff. It's like, was quite a collection. They're going with the idea of, we're not family friendly. You can have everything under one roof. It's a bit of a shot to Disney Plus. And I can't help but, I was looking at this going, oh, this is what Disney Plus could have been had they gone all in on one streaming service rather than separating. I can see why Disney are doing it, but this is what that would have looked like. There was a couple of things I wanted to bring up first off, because there were some screenshots and stuff from the app, and there were some things that were shown off. For example, the king who would be king and Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules, were shown in the actual screenshots, which are Fox movies, because Fox signed a deal with HBO, which doesn't run out until I think end of 2021. So it looks like all the new Fox movies will have to go to HBO Max first rather than Hulu or Disney Plus. And I'm looking at that going, oh, that's real. It's like they've put them out there. They put them out there for a reason. They know that they've got, they've basically got a little bit of Disney's. They ain't giving up that contract soon. They wouldn't be doing that now if they were doing that.
No, they have no reason to back out of it now that they're going to be owning their own ecosystem, which is too bad from the Disney point of view. But yeah, I totally understand why HBO is doing that. And yeah, the HBO package is amazing. We do have to acknowledge, yet HBO may be taking shots, content all the way from kid to full mature to stuff we can't talk about on this podcast. But
Elmo.
Yeah, sure, Elmo. Well, given some of the controversy around Elmo's puppeteer from a couple years ago, maybe. But, as much as HBO may take a shot at it, Disney is very specific with their brand orientation. You expect certain things from Disney. And likewise, you expect things from HBO. You expect solid writing. You expect good production quality, good actors. Last couple of seasons of Game of Thrones aside, for the most part, HBO stays very high quality. They did have a little bit of a reputation for maybe canceling shows before they should. I mean, I know Carnival fans are still horrendously upset that show never got a proper ending. But Netflix seems to have stepped in and taken that crown instead. Yeah. So HBO is a little bit safe now.
I do think like this one here, again, Netflix has been getting a lot of slack, or a lot of flack, I should say, for losing content because of HBO and Warner Brothers and Disney and all the rest of it. And this was a kind of, I think, a much more of a bigger shot really across Hulu because of losing things like South Park. They've lost Seinfeld. Hulu is the one that's kind of like hemorrhaging stuff, but it's losing it. But no one's really paying as much attention to them as maybe they would be to Netflix. But this really, I thought this came across really well. The fact they're going to be introducing live television into it. AT&T are at this weird point right now where they've got too many platforms. They're desperately clinging on to the stream, to like cable. The idea that they're already going to give you HBO Max if you're already a HBO subscriber, I think, shows you about the price of it. But AT&T and Comcast are still struggling with the idea that they're still trying to cling everybody onto the old system and not fully grasping what cord cutting is all about, And I think HBO Max is much more in line of them going, okay, we do realize that maybe in 5 to 10 years we need to be all in on this because if we're going to be too late by the time. But I thought this was a heck of a showing. Some major brands there, some major things. I did look at it and go, this is a real shot right across Disney Plus of 2 to 3 times the amount of movies, because Disney Plus have got a lot more access to movies and they've been holding stuff back. Maybe they're holding stuff back for a reason, but this was a real big shot, I think, for them.
Yeah, and we know that Disney has to hold stuff back because they need that trickle out of content. You can only get so far, even with, say, The Mandalorian coming out over the course of 8 or 10 weeks. Whereas HBO doesn't really necessarily have that problem because they could throw their entire back catalog up right now, but new movies across the spectrum are coming out all the time. Yeah. And stuff that will get added to HBO organically will just be happening. They don't need to hold on to stuff to release later.
No.
Plus, their entire library is already digitized since they have
Yeah.
to do it all on video on demand through companies like Comcast and Verizon and Sky. So it's not much of a stretch for them to just go, all right, well, here's the entire digital library. Boom, there's access to the streaming side. Have at it.
Yeah, I do think that's something that's needs to be being brought up. I think about the Fox purchase of Disney. Disney still have to go through the entire back catalog of the Fox content and basically convert it to their systems, make sure it's up to their standards and practices. It's not a case of just picking it up and dropping it off. They will. That's probably why we're seeing much more drip feed of the Fox content, because they're like buying a new house. They're still going through and making sure everything is up to their standard. They can't just whack everything out super fast, which I think we were maybe expecting a little bit more. Depends what they're going to do with Hulu. But yeah, I did think that this was a really, really big just blast. And looking at it now of like as streaming services, you're going to be looking at like HBO Max and going, there's a lot of content on here. The only thing that really kind of caught us all off guard was they did this, and then they were like, we're going to roll out across Latin America and Europe and all the rest of it. And then literally the same day, yeah, we've re-signed deals with Canada, Sky, to have all of our HBO content go to them. Yeah, we're not going to launch HBO Max in those countries. We're only going to launch them in countries where we don't already have a content deal. And it was a bit like, ooh, okay. Like, yeah, so Europe, England won't be UK won't be getting HBO Max. We're going to be getting it continuing through Sky and Comcast. It's like, okay, you kind of made this big deal, and then you went, yeah, but we don't like that. With those countries where we're already making money, we don't want to change things. But yeah, that's not really changing with the tide. It's like, so like HBO Max, yeah, not coming to UK. It's just staying as it is with all the HBO stuff going to Sky in there. I mean, it might make Now TV, which will probably end up becoming Peacock, a little bit more interesting for us. But yeah, it was like, okay, that was a bit of a weird launch.
They obviously picked their market, and they wouldn't have tongue-tied. They would not have done this without researching it first. They must have gone into it and said, yeah, renegotiating the contracts would have costed us far more money than it was worth to do it. And the other thing is, I would have to assume that any original content designed specifically for HBO Max will end up released in those countries through another channel, probably just through regular HBO on your television or video on demand. They're not going to say, no, you don't get to have this content, period. It's just you don't have HBO Go or HBO Max.
Well, that's the big thing. It's like HBO. It's like it's not really a brand so much over here because it's all shown on Sky Atlantic and on it's on Sky Atlantic and on Now TV. So it's because it was never been like a platform that we subscribe to independently. It's always been part of Sky. So they've not got that branding of HBO the same way they've got, I know, like over here, it's always just been part of Sky. And, and yeah, that might be a reason why they just looking and going, yeah, we've already got a system base that's working.
Yeah. Why fix what isn't broken and what does not necessarily need an upgrade? I mean, basically it's different requirements for different countries. America, yeah, we have that whole system in place where HBO is a premium channel. You do not get HBO unless you seek out HBO.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense for them to have this package available and say, hey, you're a cord cutter. Here you can still have HBO. You can still experience all of this content that you've wanted to experience but couldn't because it was locked behind the subscription paywall. In fact, this is a really big move for HBO because they were actually held up as one of the companies for a long time that was not getting with the digital generation. Because I remember back when Game of Thrones first started, season 1, season 2, maybe even season 3, you could not get Game of Thrones any way except HBO traditional subscription through your cable provider. Eventually they launched HBO Go, which became a mobile app, and you could do it that way. But there were a number of years there where people were just like, give us the option to buy this some other way because we don't want a cable subscription and an HBO subscription. And it took them forever. And now they're coming here and like, yep, here we go.
Yeah.
Everything, which is what people wanted.
Yeah, I think they've got a very good thing, and it's going to be some strong competition for Disney Plus. But it just seemed the international rollout was a very odd. It's like, because there's going to be this weird thing going on of like trying to get those subscriber numbers up as high as possible, as quickly as possible, and they're giving it away with this. And it's an interesting thing going forward. But I keep, and we're reading like the cord cutters news and stuff like that. Very much, it feels like, again, not as bad as Comcast, but still that kind of thing with HBO. Yeah, we still want everyone to have AT&T. We don't want, please don't go from here. We need you to be in there. The fact they're giving this away, if you've got a HBO subscription through your cable, I think that's a good thing. They're kind of giving you the power of keeping you within that ecosystem. I mean, I don't think $14.99 is bad, but it looks, when you're comparing it to like Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and all the rest of it, people go, oh, it's a lot more expensive. It's like, we're never going to get that much content for $7.99 or $8.99 or $9.99. There's a lot of content. I think, I look at it and go, well, if you were to combine Hulu and Disney Plus, you're looking at $12.99, $12-13, especially if you go for the non-ad version. Netflix, you're going to have to pay to have access. The trouble is, everyone's now going, yeah, but if you add all of them together, that's where you're going to get in.
Right. And I think that if you take it by itself in a vacuum, the $15 a month is an absolutely amazing value for what you get out of HBO Max. No question at all. The problem then becomes this thing we've been talking about for months, which is if I want all the streaming services, I'm paying more now than I would be for a cable subscription. So
there were some articles recently about that and kind of going, this whole, people going, oh, well, I'm spending £100 on, a month on all these streaming services, and cable's $110. I would be better on cable. And it's like, yeah, that's not actually a right comparison, because if you had cable, you'd have no access to any of these shows or movies because none of them are on cable. So it's like, you're actually getting less content for being on cable because you wouldn't have access to all the Netflix originals and the Hulu originals and the Disney Plus originals and the HBO Max originals. None of that would be available on cable. And the other thing as well are you really going to be subscribed to Apple TV Plus, Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, WWE Network, ESPN Plus? Are you subscribing to every single streaming service? Or are you
at the same time?
At the same time? Or are you going to cherry pick? Are you going to drop and go? It might be, that's the thing of going forward. Yeah, it means like me now, I've got Now TV, which is Comcast and HBO essentially. I've got Amazon, I've got Netflix, and I've got Disney Life, Disney Plus, WWE. I think we've got Hey You at the minute as well. We've got lots of streaming networks, but there's certain things like, I subscribe to the WWE network for WWE content. I've had Disney Life for years because it's $4.99. It's cheap as chips, and it's good. It's all the access that I want. Amazon is a bit hit and miss for me. Now TV with all the HBO stuff is kind of the only reason I'm keeping it around a little bit. But, Netflix is a little bit more in flux for me, but Amazon would be the first go if it wasn't for the shipping. And I think, this whole thing of like, you've got to have all of it. If you can't afford it this month, drop one. You drop them and you pick them up and binge watch. And, it's like now with all this HBO stuff, if you want to watch all these movies, maybe you only subscribe for 2-3 months a year, and then you flip over to Apple TV for a month or two. But you haven't got enough time to watch all of these shows and movies. I don't know how you would fit it all in.
Yeah, I've actually pretty much given up gaming entirely, which is funny because we used to talk about gaming all the time on Diz Kingdom. I have not turned on any of my consoles since September at this point. But that's,
yeah. Actually, that's not a bad thing, because I probably am very much on the line of, again, I've been maybe doing half an hour to an hour a night as just kind of that thing of, right, I need a break. I've been playing Lion King and Aladdin from retro games.
No, I need a break, not the masochism of 1990s platformers.
You can hit the rewind button, so it's good. And I've got further than I ever got as a kid, but nevertheless.
Granted. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to go back on real fast, the topic, we bring it up like almost every week, and I already talked about it earlier today. I will not be subscribed to every single streaming service at the same time. I've already said I'm gonna subscribe to CBS, and I'm gonna subscribe to it for a month. After Picard comes out, I'm gonna watch all the Star Trek stuff that I want, maybe the Twilight Zone, and then I'll be done until more stuff comes out. Netflix is gonna be the same deal. I will watch, if a show comes onto it that I want to watch, I will subscribe to it, binge it, be done. Binge in my case still being like, if it's 13 episodes, it'll take 13 days for me to watch it. I don't do the straight binging. But yeah, it's you don't get that option with cable because it's an all or nothing package. Sure, it here in the States, it's extra if you want HBO, Showtime, Cinemax, all that stuff. But otherwise, if you want Disney, ESPN, Comedy Central for South Park, all that, it's all one giant package. And now you get to choose.
It's like for me with Sky, if I go for the Sky Entertainment bundle in HD, it's £32 a month. Or I get Now TV for $7.99 a month. That's literally the same content. It's a no-brainer for me because I was like, well, for £30 I can have multiple platforms for the same price. So it's like, I'm not having Sky TV and I wouldn't have access to any of those bits and pieces. But that is the price of going forward. I think Disney Plus are being very smart. This is why they're doing this weekly drop, because they know with the Mandalorian they're going to get you for 8 weeks. That means there's 2 months subscription. When all the Marvel stuff starts dropping, oh boy, there's another couple of months that people are going to be in on the system. Disney are in that position that they are setting themselves up that everyone will look at it and go, oh, it's cheap, I can do that. If it was the full, I can see why the Hulu and the Disney Plus packages are going to work in tandem, because they're going to be that thing of, oh, well, it's only $5.99 for Hulu, and that's what's going to grab people. And that bundle, a lot of people are interested in that bundle because everyone's thinking, oh, I'm getting free streaming services for $12.99. Whereas, it's just one of those things. I think Disney have got that. It's definitely an advantage thing of going forward. But if you only want to jump in for Disney Plus for a couple of months, and maybe you jump in December for Disney Plus for The Mandalorian, or maybe even you wait till January, you can binge the whole lot, and then you drop out again, and then try it in February. You start CBS Max, you drop that, and then. But they're not looking for those people. I don't think they're necessarily looking for that. They don't want that subscriber churn. They're trying to get people locked in long term, and this is what that weekly drop is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, from our perspective as a consumer, I'm definitely doing the month to month on most of the services, but they don't want that. Disney wants you to be subscribed. HBO wants you subscribed. Netflix wants you subscribed, and they want you to forget that you're paying 15 or 8 or however many dollars a month. It's just your eyes gloss over it when you're looking over your credit card statement each month because it's just something. It's on there. It's that gym membership that you signed up for and never use, but you pay it every month because it's too much of a hassle to cancel it or whatever. And that's what they want. So that's not the way it's going to be. There will be plenty of consumers who just subscribe and forget, and they will let it run forever, whether they're using it or not. But there will also be a lot of subscribers, particularly I think among millennials, who will do, all right, we're going to subscribe for a month or two, watch all the stuff we want, come back in a year.
Yeah, and I think as well as you're going to get that thing of the big, like, water cooler shows will bring people in, short period, and then you get out. I wouldn't be at all surprised if in January, once the Mandalorian drops, if there is a drop off. I mean, they'll never announce it, but they'll hope that the numbers go up higher than it. But I do think it's a mistake that they've not got a Marvel show ready for February, March. I think that's going to be a problem. But we haven't really seen what they've got coming up after Christmas yet. But I think that's pretty much going to wrap up what we've done for this one here. It's been a little bit more longer than we were expecting because bit of an odd one. But yeah, so next week's episode is kind of like the penultimate Disney Plus launch episode. So we will probably just be going through whatever's been announced this week and also just kind of getting everyone prepped up on what's happening next, really, or what's going to be the next thing going forward. But again, a big thank you to all of our Patreons. Thank you for your support. Thank you very much for listening or watching on the different platforms. Make sure you subscribe there as well. Go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Also, we have a Facebook group as well, so be free to join that one. And we shall see you guys in another episode. Later.